but let's just at least mention this, that male obesity can really kill sex drive.
The sugar and the alcohol are really one of the hardest things for guys.
Yeah, nothing makes you fatter than sugar.
Their go-to under stress.
Welcome to the Dr. Gill Show. This is where we talk about medical matters that matter to you. My return guest today is Dr. Jeremy Maxwell. Welcome to the show again, Jeremy.
Thank you so much. I'm super pumped to be back.
So glad you're here, Jeremy. Jeremy is my friend. He is my personal chiropractor. I was just telling him before this interview while we're getting ready how he's really turned my back health around, how I'm now able to keep my back virtually pain-free without having to see him all the time, just little tune-ups here and there. Jeremy has been a guest here twice before. He is a doctor of chiropractic, and our first episode was around chiropractic manipulation. Mm-hmm. Yep. If you want to hear it, go to one of our earlier episodes. Jeremy came back and he talked about the Swiss watch principle. Mm-hmm. Give us the executive summary, Jeremy. What does the Swiss watch principle mean to you?
Yeah, so I can't take credit for it. It was honestly an analogy that Dr. Flynn, who founded the Wellness Way, came up with, but it really encompasses the chiropractic philosophy of how we view the body, is that we're not just a bunch of individual parts, but all these parts together work for the greater good of the whole. So if you take off the back of a watch and you see all those gears, there's big ones, small ones, ones that move kind of slow, ones that move fast. So if one little thing gets off, like a little chip in one of those teeth, it's going to throw off the efficiency of the watch to keep the proper time. So our bodies are really no different than that.
So it's a wonderful analogy of the interconnectedness of all our separate functions, which are really,
think about like if you had a brain tumor,
right?
You know, we appreciate the fact that in the medical community we have specialties. So you don't want to go for brain surgery and the foot surgeon shows up,
right?
You know,
right.
So, but from a health restoration standpoint, we look at the body like this because you can't just affect one organ and not expect something else to be affected. So we have to just look at everything. And so the chiropractic philosophy was the body has this innate intelligence and we want to look at it all. Can we just look at those 3 T's, kind of a review, if you would watch before, trauma, toxins, and thoughts. Those are the 3 main things that will move an individual out of balance or out of homeostasis and into that disease state.
And this shouldn't come as a huge surprise.
Nope.
It makes total sense.
Nope.
So let me tell you a little bit more about Jeremy. He did you go to York College in Nebraska on a soccer scholarship?
Yeah.
So you've always been athletic and
The last century,
athletic and fit. And
yep.
You still play some recreational soccer?
I officially retired my boots. Let's see, I'll be 50 in May, so I think it was 44 or 45.
But now you're an avid golfer, I believe.
Avid golfer, and love to get out and hike when I can. And my wife's still waiting for me to buy the bike so I can go ride bikes with her.
Yeah, here in the Midwest, biking is a real thing. Yeah. It's a real passion. Anyway, well, Jeremy, you look great. You look the part.
Thank you.
And it shouldn't matter. A very sick, obese person should be able to give good advice, but people don't believe them, right? So people do shoot the messenger, and the messenger does matter. And at least you look the part, Jeremy. So very good.
I want to live the part too. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I do firmly believe that you should look the part. And people should watch what you do and be like, okay, yeah, he's doing what he says he's doing.
He walks the walk, as it's been said. You then went to the Palmer College of Chiropractic, which is the elite or one of the elite chiropractic colleges. That's in Iowa?
Yes, Davenport, Iowa.
Davenport, Iowa.
We used to say Davenport.
Davenport, yeah. Indian Hopeless. We used to live in Indianapolis. A great town now. And you've been here in mid-Missouri since 2001 in one sort of private practice or another. Mm-hmm. And your current practice is called the Wellness Way. It's part of a network. Yep. And people can look you up. You can Google that, the Wellness Way. So what we're going to talk about today, Jeremy, is a hot topic, an important topic and one that is laden with misinformation and quick fixes. And today we're going to talk about the male sex drive.
Yep.
Now, guys are from Mars and gals are from Venus. And if we were going to talk about the female sex drive, I could say something very sexy. I'll probably get canceled here, but the book would be this tall.
Well, from what I've found is if you just say what you think, people are really excited about that because they're already thinking it. We just have the balls to say it.
To say it, right. So today we're going to take, hopefully, a more manageable topic and talk about male sex drive. And my dad was a philosopher. Okay, so I tend to wax philosophical, and I'm just going to start this waxing philosophically. Here we are sitting, we're using our prefrontal cortices, we're being all erudite and academic and formal and presentable. But right under this frontal cortex is this limbic system, this powerful system of drives to thirst, to hunger, to procreate. And the sex drive is unbelievably powerful, especially when we're younger.
Yep.
A little more manageable at our age, I would say. And if you look at the downfall of famous people, usually politicians and preachers, if they do, right. I can still think Jimmy Stewart. I have sinned, I mean, bless his heart. I mean, join the club. We all carry these animal instincts. Yep. We don't talk about them enough. We don't understand them enough. They're supposed to be there on call.
Yep.
Yet we're supposed to walk around as if it almost never existed. So you look at the fall from grace. You can name any politician, senator, president, preacher. And it's always what seems from the frontal view, what a stupid move. You had sex with this underling or did it somewhere else. Or I'm also reading a book right now on the origins of the CIA and the FBI, and you look at Hoover and the orgies and the cross-dressing and all this stuff right under the surface of our lives. It defies logic. Here it is, this incredibly powerful drive. I'm going to say this again. It's supposed to be there, yet we don't talk about it enough. Right. And if it's not there, it's this huge mystery. So, Jeremy, with your Swiss watch holistic view of health, I'd like you to help us and help our listeners pull this apart and give us some understanding of the male sex drive and where more and more nowadays it goes wrong. So with that long-winded introduction, Jeremy, will you please help us tackle the subject of male sex drive?
Well, let's kind of title it, there's hope for your manhood.
Okay.
Because I think, if we kind of had an umbrella of this today, I think manhood in general is at, I don't know if tipping point's the right word. I think it's
historical
at a very
lows,
delicate low.
Yeah.
Like we've just lost manhood, and there's an array of things that can lead up to that. I mean, just the societal things, you can tie religion into this. I mean, there's so many avenues, but I think there's some just basic groundwork that can be laid that, number one, it's not abnormal for us as men to have this raging hunger and thirst to be attracted to the opposite sex.
Yeah,
like
it may be under there.
The way we were designed.
We were designed to have this and procreate.
Yeah, and I love the way what's his name? I just had it when you were talking there. Jordan Peterson.
Love Jordan Peterson.
Absolutely love Jordan Peterson.
Love Jordan.
And I think about, when he was kind of referencing, what it means to be meek and how there's just this like monster within, and it's learning how to sheath your sword. It's like you're ready for battle.
Yeah.
But there's just times that, you got to be strong, but you got to keep that sword sheathed. And I just think from a male, a manhood perspective of this inner rage of just like thirst for sexual performance, I guess, for lack of better terms, is I quit thinking of that as a bad thing for myself because I just ultimately came to the point of my own upbringing in the church and reading, scripture and thinking to myself, like, why am I fighting this so much?
Right,
Like,
right.
It's not an urge that is evil. It's, I'm not acting on it.
Right. It's programmed in there, and I think Dr. Peterson calls it the potential for violence. The potential that can be seen as, gee, if you mess with me, bad stuff's going to happen. Right. But I got it under control here.
So it doesn't mean we're not prone to fall, but I mean, there's just all these little pieces. I think Shelby and I are coming up on 30 years of marriage this year.
Shelby's your wife?
Yep, Shelby's my wife. And we've had tough conversations and we've been through difficult things. I mean, who hasn't? But the more, we have some of those discussions, and the more she understands the majority of my brain. Because
sure,
I think any male would agree with me. No female literally can handle what we actually think every day.
Yeah,
I don't think you ladies really want to know what goes on up there. I'm not saying this is a recipe for lying or hiding things. Don't get me wrong there. But there's just, trust me, as the protector of the female and the provider, there's just some things better off you don't know. But we're looking out for your best interest and the best interest of the family.
Yeah, I'll call it the chimpanzee brain. Strong enough to rip your foes apart. Limb from limb. It's in there.
Yeah. So with that, I've seen in my 24 years of practice an absolute degradation of manhood, just from the physical standpoint. Let's not, let's put aside some of the societal things, but I'm just like, what can we do to just get some grr back in these guys? What can we do to actually get the physical appearance of what looks to be a man back on this planet again?
Right. Things are disrupting this.
Yeah.
There are endocrine disruptors. There's these poisons. There are these microplastics in everything. All your fish, there's these little microplastics that are getting ground up into their environment. It used to be when you got a printout, a receipt at your favorite store, that paper, that thermal paper had PCBs, polychloral biphenyls, endocrine disruptors.
Now, do you want your receipt? I'm like, nope.
No, you
just throw it in the trash.
You can touch it.
I mean, that's just a tip of the iceberg.
Right,
I mean,
tip of the iceberg.
Before we started today, I told you I pulled up a couple of articles of just trying to figure out, okay, how do we want to start with this today? Where do we want to kind of create
Let's start with a disruptor, Jeremy, or is the plethora of medications.
Yes.
You told me you asked GPT there. Approximately half of all men.
Yeah, so pretty much 85% of adults that are 60 and older are at least taking one prescription medication.
Okay.
And then of that, they said basically 46% of all Americans basically are like, yep, I take something too.
Right.
And so that's just continued to increase. I mean, you probably see it. I know I see it when we have clients that come in. It's not unheard of for people to be on 7 to 11 medications.
Oh, yeah. 5 to 10 meds, yeah.
And I was like, you do realize like the dichotomy here. Like you're in a health restoration clinic and you're wanting to get back and regain some, let's just say, you want to get back some GER. This is a man that comes in that's on all these medications. You want to get healthy and strong again, yet I can show you that at least half of the medications are disrupting your ability to make hormone and to decrease inflammation. Or I mean, there's just the list goes on and on.
And I'm in a cousin idea here. I need a couple here, generally a couple, to be fertile, which means I need him to be virile.
Yep.
I need him to call on his sexuality at the right time, and it's got to be there, and it has to be full octane.
Yeah.
And I need her to have all of her reproductive features working. So we're both working at the same thing. Mine may have a label, but it's the same idea. So
think about where fertility could be in the next 20 years.
It seems to be going down. It seems to be going down, and infertility seems to be going up, my friend.
This study here said that the men and women who were born in 2019, The men are going to be basically on some prescription drug close to 50% of their life, and the females 60%.
Some prescription drug.
And we know, both
of
you and I both know how much medication interferes with the fertility process in so many different levels.
Right. These medicines for anxiety and depression, what a pandemic or epidemic anxiety and depression are. And these medicines, they don't seem to affect female fertility as much, but they certainly can affect male performance and certainly desire. So where do we start, Jeremy? Do we want to start with prescription medicines? Is that a place to start?
I basically just wanted to. I didn't. We don't need to go through like every single drug that's causing. I mean, anybody can get on and Google what are the top 10 male drugs that interfere with libido and testosterone production.
Okay.
I basically wanted to paint the picture that what is it going to take to get men and women to a point where like, oh, I'm not sick because I was deficient in drugs. I'm sick because I've made poor lifestyle choices. I'm not feeding my body and practicing the basics. Therefore, I'm not absorbing nutrients. So when we go back to trauma, toxins, and thoughts, if you don't take care of your spine, that can influence the nerve system.
Sure.
If you don't feed yourself well, now we can either be toxic or deficient. And you and I have done enough study on epigenetics to know how that's affected.
Right.
And then the mental aspect of things.
So where do you want to start, Jeremy? Those are three enormous
honestly,
topics.
I say let's start from the basics. Like just pure nutrition. Okay. So, and I know this is my biggest challenge and hurdle for probably 90% of the guys that I work with is when we sit down and they know they've got erectile dysfunction going on. They don't have any libido.
Right.
And then I say, well, we need to get rid of inflammation and triggers. And one of the best ways I know to do that is we need a food allergy test. Because the research shows that food allergies cause inflammation, and chronic inflammation will affect your ability to just function normal, even sperm production, even hormone production. But they're like, you mean to tell me if I'm allergic to wheat, you want me to stop drinking beer, and you want me to give up alcohol, and you want me to give up my fries or the food I eat at the club? Trust me, I've had these conversations with the guys at the country club.
Sure.
They look at me cross-eyed. And I'm like, okay, well, do you want a good morning salute, or do you want Captain Limp Wrist in the morning? It's a pretty, but that's how I get to their brain. That's to their heart is if he's not working right, okay, doc, then tell me what do we need to do? Right.
And once again, I love that meme where everybody's lined up for medicines, and there's another window where there's nobody in line for the advice, right? No. And I'll just tell you, I did the food allergies with you, and wheat and broccoli. Oh my goodness, what a bad for Gil. Don't eat wheat, don't eat bread. And when I don't, I do much better.
And tomatoes.
And tomato. Oh yeah, you remember? You remember that one was tough.
I rewatched the one with Dr. Gerber. So and the heartburn.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the tomatoes give me the heartburn. Yeah, so I can verify for those. So getting the right nutrients in, and you also mentioned it's not what you eat; it's what you absorb.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that is absolutely true. And so, when we were kind of tying this into the whole Swiss watch principle, so, I could even go, hey, Gil, did you know that your erection is directly tied to stomach acid?
I'd say you're crazy.
And you might be like, you're crazy.
You're crazy.
Like, okay, well, take a walk with me. Let's do this. So what is the job of the stomach?
Mainly to sterilize your food and start digestion, but believe it or not, it's to sterilize it.
It's going to sterilize. So we don't want some outside critters coming in and jacking up the internal environment.
Right.
Number two, we need it to be almost like battery acid because that's where that initial breakdown of proteins start.
Right.
And maintaining that pH is so vital to the rest of the steps downstream. So think of it like, you've spent all this time putting up these dominoes, and then you click the one, and when it's all set up right, everything goes so great.
Oh, you're right.
So if the pH is proper, then that's going to set up the next thing of gallbladder function and pancreatic release of the enzymes. The acidity's right. We have intrinsic factors. So we talked about the importance of B12. in the production of DNA and RNA synthesis and spermatogenesis.
Yeah, B12, for everybody listening, is a methyl donor. There's lots of methyl donors. In fact, activated B12 and activated a number of B vitamins has a methyl stuck on it. A methyl is a carbon that needs to be stuck at appropriate places. Yep. And where do we get vitamin B12 from, Jeremy?
You get it from meat.
You get it from meat. Now, a lot of people in, let's say, less developed worlds also get it from bugs, which are in their grains. They think they're vegetarian, but they're actually getting their B12 from the bugs in their lentils and their rice, and that's okay. But we got it's not about calories. You know, you can eat what someone would call 1,000 calories of a wheat or 1,000 calories of meat. And I don't care if it's a red meat or a fish meat or whole eggs. I mean, whole eggs are beautiful. But I feel completely different. That these things do not magically turn into calories. These are substances that are metabolized according to their nature.
Yep.
And you got to eat meat to get your B12.
And then we probably should even take it to the next step.
Okay.
It needs to be a good source of meat,
Yeah.
like grass-fed, grass-finished beef to, wild-caught fish.
And people are going to call us elitist. And it may be true that 7 or 8 billion people on this planet can't get access to pastured beef and wild salmon and all this kind of stuff.
And organ meats.
And organ
very
meats.
Nutrient dense.
So I don't want to sound elitist. So I would say the challenge would be, how can we get these good meat sources to this many people in an environmentally friendly way? That should be the question.
Yeah.
Not, well, gee, we should all eat crappy food because there's not enough for everybody. I think we should reframe the question. And there's the philosopher in me coming out, Jeremy.
And the people who know, like, I don't know, it's like if you know it and you might have concern about the others, it doesn't mean you still shouldn't move forward and participate in doing what's better to, I mean, at the end of the day, why am I on here? Why are your other guests on here? We have a passion to help the human body operate at maximum capability.
Yeah, I do this podcast to help people, Jeremy. This is my
and that's
calling.
I come from it from more of a health restoration standpoint, and we've gone through our whole fireman carpenter approach before, whereas we kind of give reference to the fire department as the medical doctors, and myself and other health restoration practitioners more the carpenter.
To build back up.
And we need both. Like I'm not trained in emergency medicine. Like if you have a stroke here today, like, dude, you don't want me trying to figure this out on set.
Right.
We kind of call 911 and get somebody here quick enough to give you some drugs and save your life. But after that, come to me. Let's figure out, okay, why did this happen? Did we miss something in your blood markers that indicated maybe there was some level of inflammation that was causing a disturbance?
All right. So
it's no different than men's health and testosterone.
All right. So eating a good source of protein, and you and I are on the meat wagon. A meat wagon sounds funny. So what other nutrients do we need to have a good libido and have good functioning watch here?
I mean, a lot of it's just those regular building blocks: proteins, carbs, and fats.
I call it food that grandma would recognize.
Yeah.
It's been demonized, but
things that aren't processed.
Right.
Certainly if we want to go like on a micronutrient scale, zinc's important, vitamin D is important.
Yeah, and I'd rather get zinc from a food than from a pill.
Yeah, I know,
it's
like what we carry
better
in our office is just from oysters.
What a fantastic source.
So anything that we carry is always going to be a whole food source if we can do it. I mean, that's going to be what I think both of us are going to promote is whole food consumption. So that comes back to the fact that we have to have the basics of north to south digestion. And I think that is the most overlooked function of the human body because we're more stressed out than ever before. And what does stress do to the vagal response and stomach acid
It
production.
gets all
Shuts
screwed
it
up,
down.
and you get this IBS.
Yeah.
Most of it's BS, but it's an appropriate reaction to an inappropriate stimulus.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be stressed like this all the time.
And there's just some simple solutions that can just make a man's health better. And
So
that
good
can
food, good digestion can improve your libido
Yeah.
and the functioning of your brain. That
Absolutely.
doesn't sound out of
the next challenge out of that for a guy is going to be eliminating sugar and alcohol.
sugar and alcohol, Jeremy. Sugar and alcohol. The sugar was tough. Alcohol can be tough for some people as well. Certainly, it seems like the pendulum has swung. It used to be 2 glasses of red wine a day was good, but I think the more they look at it, the less and less the benefit.
But you can
has
get
prone to
resveratrol from so many better sources.
Right.
So for me, my lens is when you put something in your body, what's it doing to the immune system? How are you responding?
Okay.
So when we do a food test, it's not just a food allergy test. It's literally looking at an IgG response to those foods in your body. So if brewer's yeast, which like probably 75% of the people I test are allergic to, big deal if you drink 2 glasses of wine every day for the resveratrol benefit and the antioxidant. It's creating cell death in your body every time you have that because an IgG response is doing that.
Is there brewer's yeast or brewer's yeast compounds in wine? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Or, if they're allergic to wheat and they drink beer.
Right.
Or like me, I had 31 food allergies and I was allergic to beef when I started 7 years ago, rice, potatoes.
Oh, my goodness.
Carrots, celery. I was juicing multiple times a week.
Oh, so you were really ramping up your inflammation then.
Yeah. So see, that's why, I don't care if it's even organic. I was organically making myself sick every day.
Right.
So when we want to maximize performance and get rid of chronic inflammation, you have to figure out the triggers. So that's why that's so important to even male function and producing proper hormones, because that inflammatory process, I did a whole training on this for our docs. So chronic inflammation is going to affect interleukin-6. And interleukin-6 and hepcidin are like 2 regulators of iron absorption.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's like, that's why I go back again to the
that.
basics. So hepcidin is like the main protein that is the homeostatic driver for iron absorption. So we see all these people, even guys with like low-grade anemia. Well, it's not necessarily because they just may not be getting enough iron in their diet. If their digestion's jacked up, therefore absorption's going to be jacked up. So chronic inflammation, chronic immune response interrupts, so many functions of the liver, which is a big hormone conversion organ more than anything.
Yeah. Now, I've battled obesity earlier in my life. I have it mainly in check. Won't go into how I got there and how I got back. That'll be a subject for another day. But when men put on weight and they put on fat, Jeremy, particularly in the belly, the hormone estrogen goes up.
Absolutely.
We aromatize. We take our testosterone, aromatize it into estrogen, and estrogen makes us soft, and it lowers libido. So we could have many episodes on obesity and how to treat it, but let's just at least mention this, that male obesity can really kill sex drive.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why the sugar and the alcohol are really one of the hardest things for guys.
Yeah, nothing makes you fatter than sugar.
Their go-to under stress.
Right. Yeah. I'll just share mac and cheese. If I'm under stress, mac and cheese and Coca-Cola used to be my
then you look at
poisons.
Our food industry. I mean, so is it any wonder that, manhood is at risk of, in a sense, being lost? Because, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to walk around town and go, what's going on? Like, men are taking on way more female characteristics.
Right.
and more women are actually looking like men.
Yes.
I mean, that's part of my PowerPoint that I put together when I'm a teacher at the end of April. Is the perception is that guys are all ripped and shredded and they can maintain that, till they take a dirt nap, and then females are all busting out 6-packs and things like that. But the reality is more guys are overweight, have the fatty liver, the belly, and the women have better 6-packs and stuff, but they weren't designed for that. You show me a woman with a 6-pack and I'll show you a sick female.
The differences are
who gets pregnant quicker, an overweight woman or a 6-pack woman?
Right. Well, somewhere in the middle, actually.
Usually if they have a little more.
Yeah, you want to be about 23% body fat. Yeah.
Because
on average,
it makes more estrogen.
Yep. So another thing that kills male libido, I'm going to say it again.
Male libido. So let's stay on point.
Let's try to keep. It's so easy to go on tangents with you.
So male libido. I mean, it does boil down to sugar because it does aromatase your testosterone into estrogen.
Yeah.
So, if we don't want to sound too elitist, what can a guy do today after listening to our show? Just limit the processed sugar, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Stop going to fast food. Stopping and getting the sodas, the candy bars.
Yeah, that's the first place.
Yeah.
To stop it, right.
If you got rid of soda and candy bars, that would make a huge difference.
Right, that would be a start. And I know some towns have soda taxes and whatnot. We were talking about Liberty and whatnot, but that's the first place to stop.
The other, to go a little bit
consumption.
deeper, is if you've never really been appropriately tested, get some baseline labs. I mean, that is what the Wellness Way is all about. I mean, we get so many people that say, well, I don't really have any symptoms. Why would I get labs? And I'm like, well, 33% of people with cardiovascular disease, their first symptom is they died.
They died, right.
So it would have been helpful if you did some markers to look and go, hey, you might be at risk for this. But from a hormone perspective, they're easy labs to run.
Right.
Now a lot of places don't necessarily go as deep as we do because we want to take that Swiss watch principle into effect, and we may just not look at T total and T free, but what's going on with their estradiol levels? What's going on with DHT? What about what's going on in the stool test? Because there's things that can happen in a stool test that can actually cause you to recirculate estrogen, which can affect what's going on. So
it's called intrahepatic circulation. Yeah. So let's shift a little over to exercise. I tell people exercise is wonderful for your mood. It's wonderful for your sleep. It's wonderful for your strength. Not very good for weight loss. It doesn't budge the scale because if you're putting on muscle, the scale may not budge, but your body composition will
change.
Your body composition will change. And obviously, some exercise is better than no exercise, and we can argue what's better. Is a walk good, or should you lift weights, or do something a little more strenuous than that? What are your feelings? Let's say you've got a guy, he's overweight, he's got poor sex drive, he's tempted to go to the testosterone clinic down the street and get his testosterone pellets, which are going to shrink his nuts, and that's a whole, and have other problems. Including, I'm just going to leave it alone. What kind of exercise does Dr. Maxwell suggest for a guy to start in on?
I liked resistance.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of weights.
When you I'm not an expert in all the physiology, but from what I understand is resistance, putting your muscle under tension and strain over time consistently, from a weight loss perspective, at least is going to deplete a lot of your glycogen stores.
Sure.
So if we want to burn fat, we've got to get rid of a lot of the sugar stuff that's just built up in the body.
Right.
So that I love. And I think, is it Dr. Gabrielle Lyons, I believe, is the one that kind of has been helping a lot of women in this regard with the mTOR and how you stimulate muscle synthesis. But that does affect your hormones. So putting those muscles under tension and stress over time will have a huge effect. And I mean, there's plenty of studies out there that show that movement is going to affect mood.
Right.
If your mood's better, you're less stressed. Less stress affects your cortisol, which affects your insulin, which is going to come back full circle and help your testosterone. Plus, if you're moving, guess what? You're less likely to get all stagnant down here.
Yeah, right,
with just
right.
venous flow. I mean, that's why truck drivers have an issue with that. And
oh my goodness,
just sitting, we're more stagnant people in general than we ever used to be. And so, I mean, there were just years ago, you never had to tell a guy, hey, get up and move. Like, that's just what they did. Their jobs were very physical, and we're just not in that kind of day and age anymore. So we have to be more intentional about movement and the kind of movement. And depending on how you want to build your body, you may have to get like a personal trainer, somebody that's going to get you to a certain level.
Pay for motivation. Because they say if you're not, the best exercise is one that you'll do, right? Yeah. And do with some repetition, and some consistency.
And from the mental perspective, I think there has to be hard conversations to have with your wife. So, you sat in with Dr. Flynn's, hormone connection seminar, and one of the things he goes through a list of like, ladies, here's what you can do for the man to help build his hormones, and men, here's what you can do to help build your female hormones.
Right.
One of them is you got to show the boy. So visually, we're very visual guys.
Guys are visual, yeah.
If you're going to make it work the best way, then ladies, your wife or your significant other, you need to show the boy some things to get him excited about.
Right. Maybe it'd be a little less self-conscious.
So they're, not going off somewhere else and looking and doing things.
Right. All right. So we're not going to go too much into specific exercises, but you and I are both, and almost everybody is at it. Almost everyone seems to be coming around to weight training, high intensity.
See, this is where I probably would take a little bit different approach is you really need to get labs first and work on getting rid of inflammation. Because if you're super inflamed from your poor diet and you're not making any changes, it doesn't matter how much you go to the gym. You can't outwork out your level of inflammation, just like I can't out-supplement somebody's bad habits. I can support them and kind of protect them a little bit, but at the end of the day, you have to remove the triggers. So if you have crappy sleep, poor diet, well, just because you exercise doesn't mean it actually makes you healthier.
Right. Artificially turning food into this myth of it's a calorie, and if I just burn off the calories, then it's gone. Yeah. It ain't reality, is it?
I mean, so it's almost ironic to me how important nutrition is, yet it still gets blown away to the pushed away to the side. But if you watch any drug that is implied or used for weight loss or health, it always implies, well, this too, along with the right diet. I'm like, what if you just did the diet and followed some good advice and went without the drug?
And you've seen it in soda companies. They just make the can smaller. Say, it's only 100 calories. Consume in moderation. It's still fructose, high fructose corn syrup, and with no nutritive value. So maybe less. It's a smaller bite of unhealthy. So maybe now, would you like to move on to some common medications, Jeremy, that can affect sex drive?
Yeah.
Let's move on to medicines. There's medicines that can adversely affect your mood. There's ones that can affect your metabolism.
Well, like I said, the main ones that I see that do it are going to be statins and blood pressure medication.
Okay, let's talk about statins.
And then any of the mood disorders.
And any of the the
depression
serotonin,
the SSRIs.
SSRI reuptake inhibitors. All right. So let's take on let's slay one dragon. Let's talk about the statins. Now, I am friends with some real well-versed scientists that can tell us about all the flaws in the statin studies, and I can't rattle off the studies and I'm going to save that conversation for someone who can really dissect this and help us. But let's just make something clear. Statins, what little benefit you get is not from lowering the cholesterol. It's from lowering inflammation and lowering stickiness of platelets and whatnot. These are called confounding factors. And in fact, you need all of our sex hormones, all of our sex steroids come from cholesterol. It's a vital nutrient.
Yeah.
And if we are inhibiting its synthesis, we are inhibiting the function of everything else downstream. Is that a fair statement?
Okay, I'm done. I mean, that's why I'm so baffled all the time about it. It's like, how have we I guess I can't say we. How have some convinced or conditioned people to believe that you can interrupt a normal function of the human body,
and then
somehow say it decreases a risk of XYZ? Or I guess my question always is, okay, if you're doing that, are you producing health or further dysfunction?
Right.
I look at it from the perspective of homeostasis. So anything that moves the body out of normal function, then it's moving in the direction of a disease state. Well, every drug, because it works so amazing, quickly interrupts a normal process. So if you stop that pathway in the liver, why are we surprised that then diabetes is going up and why libido is going down? Because we don't have the building blocks to make testosterone and to make the stress hormones like that. Like, I just help me understand. I don't get it.
Just a couple of weeks ago, I had a husband who's been on a statin for lipid levels that really weren't that bad. They really weren't that bad. His absolute risk of a problem was awfully low. And he was getting more and more depressed, so they put him on an antidepressant, and that wasn't working. So they were adding Abilify there. And you shouldn't have seen his face when I was talking to him. I said, "Sir, your depression, your libido is going down because you're taking medicine on top of medicine on top of medicine on top of side effect.
Yeah.
And we really got to get you off of all of these." And his chin almost hit the floor. So I'm going to die of a heart attack. Well, probably not.
Right.
And did you want to try to make a baby in the meantime, right? Without me having to go to in vitro fertilization and all this kind of stuff. So I see it all the time, guys on these medicines with poor libido. And once again, it's a complex issue. And once again, libido is so mysterious. And I kind of started off on this, that it's our inner brain, it's our limbic system, integrating all kinds of things that we've inherited, instincts we've inherited, hardwiring we've inherited, but, affected by a multitude of things that we layer on top of it. So I think we both agree that that we frequently see decreased libido on guys taking statins. I think that's fair to say. Blood pressure medicines. Now, blood pressure is the silent killer, and I have a doctor coming soon to talk about blood pressure. So we don't want to have blood pressure out of control. It's going to cause a stroke or rupture vessels and cause chronic kidney disease and all this kind of stuff. But an erection requires changes in blood flow. And one of the big side effects of beta blockers and all that stuff is erectile dysfunction. And it's hard to be horny if you can't have an erection.
Absolutely.
It kind of leads the way. So what can we do about, and there's alpha blockers, beta blockers, ACE inhibitors. I mean, there's
a lot of ways.
Worlds, worlds of different mechanisms to affect blood pressure. But I guess I'm answering my own question here. I guess if you treat the high blood pressure, get the blood pressure down and get off the meds, then problem
because
improved.
They also do alter some nutrient stuff. I mean, especially from an electrolyte standpoint.
Really?
Throw off your potassium levels, the sodium.
Oh, that's right. Especially the diuretics, of course. They have to add potassium to these common diuretics.
What do a lot of these guys come in with? I don't have any energy. Okay, well, it actually costs a lot of energy to make that sodium potassium pump work.
Right.
So if it's being altered by a medication, again, now there's another interruption. So
right.
Like, why? I guess ultimately, when we talk about men's health, why can't there be the first step to, okay, I got to do something hard, which is I got to change my lifestyle. Like I don't know what it's going to take to get people to stop taking the easy route. They want to drink, they want to eat what they want to do, and then take the pill and still do their stuff. And clearly, if you look at just over the last 50 years, Certainly, we've made great medical advancements, but I think you and I both can agree. Have we really seen the overall health and well-being of people get better?
No, obesity is through the roof.
Obese, cancer's at an all-time high, and certainly, how much more money do we have to throw at these industries to find the cure when, like, it's all change some lifestyle stuff, you know?
And you know, I've probably said this on more than one podcast, but recently there have been these, and I'm not going to use a name of these medicines. They're called GLP-1 analogs. They decrease hunger. They keep your stomach full. They kind of shut down your GI, digestion, and give you a sense of fullness and cut down on cravings. But there's an ad recently of a woman injecting herself, and it's week 1, week 2, week 3, and you see her slowly shrinking.
Yeah,
and it just looked like a heroin addict injecting their fix to take care of their craving. Right. That's why heroin addicts take an injection, because they're craving, they're jonesing. Right.
Yeah.
So you've got people jonesing for these foods, and here's my anti-jonesing fix, and it's now acceptable.
Yeah,
it's now they're promoting. Gee, look, inject yourself every week with this fix, and somehow that's okay. Yet we can't get the nutrition advice to go away from low fat, low cholesterol, low salt. Can we?
Hey, Dr. Gill.
Yeah.
Did you know that if you just increase your protein, you'll be less hungry?
I mean, imagine protein offers satiety.
I mean, if you want your energy expenditure to be higher than what you're putting in,
right?
But you need some good gas and fuel to get you through.
Yeah.
Increase your quality of protein. Have a little fat. Eat some good healthy carbs. Like, that's not rocket science. Like, you don't have to sit down and have this app that's constantly figuring out your freaking macros and micros and all. Like, like if we're cavemen doing that,
they weren't
putting a little I ate like 3 pieces of mammoth today.
No, they were apparently stuffing their face when they had the meat, and
they're tearing into the organ meats and
breaking out the marrow, pounding it out.
I mean, certainly it's a different day and age.
A few days later, do it again. After fasting for a few days, do it again.
We'll see. And that's another thing so what are some things that just guys can do to, I don't want to say easy. There are difficult things to do, but I think of fasting. The research supports, 24 to 72 hour fast that can decrease inflammation, that can have an influence on your testosterone levels.
Yeah.
Increase libido. I mean, I've done that multiple times,
Yeah, and when I'm in ketosis, man, I get mean. I get mean. I want to pick fights.
If I've done the 72-hour fast, I always tell my wife,
watch out, honey.
Be careful, I'm going to pounce your ass.
Right. That
which is good, because I think, shouldn't your wife be like, it's sweet that my husband still wants to come after me, I mean, like, there's just, and I've seen her change in a great way over the years in that, it's like it's reciprocated.
Right.
And it's fun. It's like, I'm going to be 50 here in May, and it's fantastic to still flirt around with your wife and make your
everything
kids
still works.
Uncomfortable in the kitchen. Or I should say kid. We only have one living at home anymore. Last one's getting ready to graduate, so.
Good for you.
But I don't know. That's just, I know you've had to bring me back to this topic and stay on the men and libido.
Yeah. Right.
But it is a passion of mine. Like as I get older into practice, and I've got 2 young ladies working with us now, I kind of want to get a little more, niched into kind of reviving men's health, just because it's been something I've personally worked on a ton over the last 7 years, with the purpose of, listen, don't believe what you've been told. Just because you get older doesn't mean your hormones have to go down with age. Yes, we are all going to take a dirt nap. Yes, my body is going to wear out someday. But some of you guys are ridiculously getting there way too quick.
Way too soon.
Because of this whole glycation aspect.
Let's talk about glycation. Let me explain glycation for our listeners.
Yep.
When we eat sugars or metabolize carbohydrates.
Yep.
Glucose is the most common, floats around your blood. It's too high. You should only have a couple tablespoons or so of glucose in your entire bloodstream. When it gets higher, it starts sticking to things. That's glycation comes from glucose or something, some other similar word root. And the sugar starts sticking to things. And this is not good. And in fact, the most popular blood test to look at your blood sugars is something called hemoglobin A1C. That is a glycated hemoglobin. It's your blood getting sugared and becoming abnormal. And it can happen to your blood vessels and other parts of your body, including the blood vessels of your erectile apparatus, all of which can lead to dysfunction. So let's talk about glycation, Jeremy.
Don't you find it interesting that the acronym for that is AGES?
Advanced glycation end products. Yeah, I have noticed that, in fact. It's called AGES.
Yeah. Well, I think ultimately
and it ages you.
The main thing from a hormone perspective or vascularization is what it does to the endothelial layers vascularly and down in the penis there. So, ultimately, I think it's going to affect your nitric oxide levels. So there's
that's a whole nother world.
And there's some cool stuff out there product-wise that just can help support cardiovascularly the intimal layer of the vascular system, in addition to just supporting blood flow, to that area. But again, it's lifestyle. I mean, these come from poor food choices,
and we should be able to make our own nitric oxide. Now, I'm not smart enough or knowledgeable enough to talk about arginine types and supplements and whatnot. I don't know enough. I think some people can get some benefits, but I'm going to stay agnostic on that right now because I don't want to give out bad information.
Right. Yeah, that's cool.
I'm going to stick with that, but it's clearly part of our endogenous system. The release of these nitrogen products are crucial in our vascular health. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I mean, to me, that just oxide. The human body is amazing. I mean,
it is amazing.
Like what this body is capable of doing within this Swiss watch principle. Like there's just so many things that influence so many other things. That's why I get so frustrated. Is why are we so quick to always have a drug that interferes with that system? Like there's just nothing on the planet from a chemical perspective that can be put into the body that promotes health or promotes that innate intelligence to do its job.
Right.
Like the gene that says, hey, if I express this and I tell the pituitary to talk to the Leydig cells in the testicle and we need some LDL, some cholesterol, we need some zinc, all this stuff.
Right.
Tell me what drug promotes that to be better versus what if we just teach people these basics of eat real food, break it down, absorb it. You know what? You don't have to tell the body to do those things. It already is programmed for that. Our job is to figure it out. Like if there's a breakdown in the system, where is it?
Right.
Are they not making sperm because they're like zinc deficient? Are they B12 deficient?
Right.
I mean, they're not testosterone deficient because they didn't take an injection.
Right. And maybe we can kind of wrap this up on the what unfortunately is the quick fix for male libido with the side effects, and that is testosterone supplementation. There are whole clinics, and we had a wonderful talk from Dr. Mark Grant about this.
Yep, I watched that.
And there certainly are benefits, and if you're not making enough on your own and you've done all these other things, and particularly if you're done childbearing, there's clearly let's call it a subset of people that will benefit from it. But I see guys all the time, they started taking testosterone, and testosterone is the quick fix. Okay, libido goes up, muscle mass goes up, energy may go up. But it tells the brain, hey, you don't make any more. So stop sending signals to the testes, those Leydig cells that are making the testosterone. They shrivel up and they stop. Now you've got a guy who's feeling really good for the moment, got no sperm, no testes, And now you got to tell him he's got to quit. He's got to stop, or he can't get access to it. Or now he's starting to have adverse health effects, and he needs to stop. This guy is going to feel like utter crap for a long, long time. And in fact, it turns out that guys feel so terrible that they will continue to take it for years and years and years, because in effect they're addicted to to that substance as well.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get off. Apparently it's hard. Everybody compares everything to heroin, right? But apparently nicotine and testosterone are harder to get off of than the usual bad actor of heroin.
Yeah. Well, if you go down that road, I guess my one plea would be, even if your doctor doesn't know about it, get a Dutch test and run that dried urine test and comprehensive hormones so you can see how your liver is metabolizing those exogenous hormones downstream. Because you can look in the blood all you want, but if you don't look at that Dutch test and watch and see how testosterone is being aromatized, or maybe it's in that 5-alpha where it's going to become more DHT, you could be taking that stuff and push yourself in the direction of prostate cancer, breast cancer. I mean, I've had multiple guys come in our office that were either taking hormone replacement or even not taking it, and did that Dutch test and found that their 4-hydroxy was super elevated. And they were complaining of, I'm waking up in the middle of the night, I got to cry. I feel like I just emotional mess.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, because you're more dominant now in these female hormones that are going to give you female traits. So, some of these guys could be having a lot of GER, but it's not going to be long. They're going to be growing man boobs.
Yeah. Now, I'm also going to stay agnostic on the Dutch test. I don't use it. I don't know enough about it, so I'm not going to say it's good or bad. But I will say that you have a lot of experience with it, and I value your experience and your opinions, Jeremy. So I'm not going to advocate for it, but I'm glad people are looking into this, and you're finding value in your patients.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to certainly be very glad that you are taking an interest in men and, in fact, helping them.
Yep.
And you've got a long track record of helping people. Now, as we wrap up this discussion on male libido, is there anything I've not covered yet? Is there anything that you want to highlight on our way out, Jeremy?
I think we'll stay agnostic on the supplements. I can respect that, because I think that should be under the guise of some good guidance anyways. But I think, anybody wants some takeaways.
Okay.
It's like, so let's just give them 10. Some of these we've definitely talked about, but I think today, if you're watching this and you're a guy and you're like, all right, enough's enough, I got to kind of get my shit together. Here's 10 things that I think if you want to support your male health and libido, cut back sugar and processed foods.
I love those. I'm going to give this a drum roll. This is Jeremy's top 10.
These are my top 10.
Top 10 things you can do to improve your libido.
For free.
For free. For free.
So cut back on sugar and processed foods.
Check.
All right. Decrease or cut out alcohol.
Check.
Move, lift, get some muscle tension going.
Check.
Put yourself around stronger men, better business partners, and people who are just all around better than you. If you're the top of your circle, you need a new circle.
That is, it's also called surround yourself with the winners and whatnot. Yeah. And it may not sound fair, but boy, I don't think anybody can with a straight face argue against that.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with inspirational people.
Yep. Increase your protein.
Okay.
Get properly tested.
Okay.
Work on yourself daily. So I have a group of guys in the Wellness Way. We call it mind, money, and muscle. So the 3 M's. So every day I'm working on my mind, I'm working on my money, and I'm working on my muscle.
I like that. I know there's a lot of different recovery groups out there. It's called a 10th step. It's a daily inventory. I think everybody's is honing in on that same thing. Self-reflection.
Yep.
And what did I learn from today? And what can I carry into tomorrow? And can I keep doing that every day, honestly and openly?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Love it.
Fast regularly. So I know that's pretty vague.
Right.
But there's so many great books out there. I know Dr. oh man, he was a MD. He was a kidney specialist. Drawing a blank on his name, but he wrote a whole book on just fasting and intermittent, time restricted eating. I mean, there's so many good things to that.
And I think we can all agree this 5 meals a day or having to have breakfast or having to have 3 meals a day is just utter non-science-based.
Especially for men.
Especially
for men. Women, a little bit different category, but men, there isn't any reason a guy could not benefit from one 24-hour fast every week. Like just pick a day, and then work up. That's what I did is I worked up to where then eventually about 2 to 3 times a year, I'll do a 72-hour fast, just water only.
Yeah. Now, I'm not a Taekwondo practitioner, but my jujitsu, when I used to do jujitsu, our dojo was donated from a Taekwondo master. Mm-hmm. And I remember hearing about his master Hockman. He passed away, unfortunately, from cancer. He talked about his ordeal for him to get his, I don't know what belt or stripe it was, but it was an advanced degree. I believe he fasted for 5 days. Mm-hmm. So this has been known forever, and he had to function. I don't know what he had to do, but I know in his ordeal and his final test was a 5-day fast. So people have known about this a long time. And you got to tap some real deep stuff in your psyche and in your metabolism to do that. Yep. So let's just say
that leads to number 9.
Number 9.
Do hard things.
Oh, that sounds so Jordan Peterson. I love it. One of the things I love about him. Yeah, do hard. Don't shirk. Don't shirk from it.
I mean, and honestly, that's just innately in a guy. Like, at the end of the day, you want to go battle. Like, I don't want to do just easy stuff every day.
Yeah, and Gary Vaynerchuk, another guy I admire greatly,
absolutely.
Says every day you have to execute.
Yep.
Execute. Do it.
Yep.
Do it.
And then number 10, you need to get about 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah. 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 And this is where I used to love I still admire Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he talks about sleeping less, and he goes, sleep faster.
Sleep faster.
You can't sleep faster. I'm sorry. You need 6 to good 8 hours.
Guys,
period.
You got to get 6 to 8 hours.
Try to get that sleep.
6 to 8 hours
to recover, and especially if you're lifting weights, you must recover.
Yeah,
that's part of the regimen. You work hard, recover.
Yep. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, Jeremy, I love those 10 action items, 10 points. True wisdom is truly coming from you. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me back.
Well, what a pleasure. I have learned a lot, and hopefully our listeners and our viewers will also find this very valuable. And we'll see you back again.
Absolutely.
Thank you.